Welcome to the Point of No Return podcast, a show at the intersection of technology and strategy. On this show, we interview industry leaders and experts to better understand how they think about strategy during this time of exponential progress.
Bonjour tout le monde, welcome to the Point of No Return podcast. On today's show, I had the pleasure of speaking with Mark Maclean, Senior Director at Montreal International. Mark is the Senior Director of Business Development for the West Coast Latin American Entrepreneurship at Montréal Internationals. His role is to promote the Montreal business environment to foreign companies supporting their expansion in the Greater Montreal. Since joining Montreal International in 2016, Mark has supported multiple AI expansions, including Maluba for Microsoft, Google Brain, and Facebook AI research, in addition to helping startups establish a presence in Montreal. Previously, Mark was senior manager at EY, where we met, where he was part of the tax incentive group for small to medium companies with a focus on tech startups. He's a volunteer and mentor at Foundation Montreal Inc. and actively participates in mentoring events at Concordia University. We had a great conversation where we spoke about how he went from studying biology to the world of tech startups, the benefit of him of doing an undergrad degree, how he participated in the resurgence of Montreal's startup ecosystem, his role at Montreal International, and how he seeks to help with economic development. A really interesting chat around how Montreal can become a world leader in AI, and then some of the key players in the city like Tandem Launch, Element AI, and a few others. Mark is the best business person I know to represent Montreal internationally. On top of being just a great guy, he proudly represents my fine city, and I'm happy that he took the time to sit down. I hope that you enjoy the show. Mark, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's like I told you before, it's an honor. I listen to almost every episode.
I appreciate it. As I was telling you, it's kind of weird. It's like it's weird to meet people that listen to the show. You don't have that many metrics on podcasts. It's like, okay, this very vain metric of a download, but you don't know, do people like it? Do they enjoy it or not? So I appreciate you being, I guess, a fan or listening to the show. And thanks for your time today.
That's great.
So I'm really happy that you took the time today, Mark. I'm very curious to kind of dive into your background and particularly what you guys have been doing at Montréal International recently. It looks like you guys are been really pushing and being much more forward-thinking in terms of being on the market. But before we talk about it and me, I'd love to understand a little bit more on your background and what interested you in biology.
Yeah, so I did my undergrad in biology. I almost did it by mistake. I was skiing out west. My mother forced me back to university, said, pick a program, get back here. So I did biology as my undergrad. I got through it. I absolutely hated it, but I finished it. Then I started at a small consulting firm doing tax credits. For anyone who knows me, they know I did shred credits for a long time. I was the second employee in Montreal. We helped grow the company to about 40, 50 people across Canada. I was just an employee, no shares in the company. But then we got bought by EY. And then I was at EY for another 5-6 years, which was an excellent training ground, right? I met a lot of people. EY gave us a lot of freedom. We were able to work with a lot of the tech community here. We were focused on the early stage tech in Montreal. So I had the opportunity to work with, some of the best tech organizations, in Montreal and in my opinion, the world, Founder Fuel, a lot of the VCs, a lot of the early stage companies here. And then about 2.5 years ago, I was looking for a new challenge. And I knew the people of Montreal International and ended up there. So now I started there. My role was taking care of the west coast of the U.S., which is essentially Seattle, San Francisco, and L.A. And just this year, we got a little bit bigger of a mandate under my umbrella, which is now the west coast of North America. So Vancouver, Seattle, San Francisco, L.A., all up and down the coast. Taking care of Latin America, which we're going to be more proactive on now. We're going to Mexico the first week of September. And an entrepreneurship mandate now where we're trying to attract entrepreneurs. So it's been great. For me, it's the best job in the world. And I truly believe it. I sell the best city in the world and I get to meet the best companies in the world, right? Going to Silicon Valley is a dream to me. It's like going to Disney World.
It's great, man. That's great. I want to dive into Montreal International, but go back to your degree. So was there anything useful that you got out of biology? Just like curiosity? Because I remember taking those courses like, oh my God, like, it didn't perform too well.
So I did my degree in biology and then I did my MBA afterwards. So and that's where I realized I probably should have. But biology, and what I tell people, especially when I'm hiring or when I'm working with people, is that an undergrad degree shows that you could commit to something, right? It showed that I was able to commit, and I'm not saying one way or another, but biology is not the easiest program in the world. And I got through some pretty hard courses. I was working full time and stuff like this. So what I learned was how to dedicate your time, focus, Nothing about cellular biology or organic chemistry has stayed with me at all, but being able to manage my time and focus. I think and I think for anyone doing an undergrad degree, that's what you learn.
What led you to business? Was there anything particularly that interested you? Was it more the broad field and then you kind of narrowed down?
I think the broad field. I think dealing with people, right? The most of the time, and I think the stereotypical image you get of scientists is, right, lab coats and microscopes and sitting alone in, or even engineers or computer scientists on their computers, right? And I like talking to people, I like working with people. So that's what led me to a little bit more on the business side. Again, it was a little bit of I don't want to say a fluke, but I ended up at this company writing lab reports, and then we started doing business development, and then we grew, and then we hit EY, and then we grew, kept growing, and just kept having the chance to work as more of a consultant rather than a scientist, right? And that part of it's interesting. Understanding how companies work, understanding how businesses work. I had a small snapshot of it in the tax credit field, because you start working with the company when they were 2 people. And then you'd think they'd be successful, and then they grow. But then other companies, you think, yeah, they're 30 people, and you could see they're not going to work out, right? Because of the way they're managing the stuff, but you're still doing the tax credit. So you have a real snapshot over a 5-10 year period with some people. So, and that I found extremely interesting, right?
Yeah. And during your tenure at EY, you were all over the place in the Montreal startup community in tech. What attracted you to that space? I imagine for you to be so present, it's that you're passionate about it, you're enjoying it.
So, yeah. And so my anecdote with that, and again, I tell it all the time to the people that know me, but when I started Shred Credits in 2004, there was really no entrepreneurial ecosystem. There was no tech ecosystem in Montreal, right? I joke that I was doing tech credits and Shred Credits for the guy making the nuts and bolts, 2 millimeters smaller for Bombardier, right? Extremely, extremely boring stuff that most of the time you want to pull your hair out writing the tech report. But then, and I can't say this enough times, and I say it to their face all the time, when Real Ventures, Founder Fuel, when all that started in Montreal, I think it changed the ecosystem of Montreal. I've told Ian Jeffrey before, I've told people at Founder Fuel and Real Ventures before, it changed my life, right? Being able to involved in that, being able to see that, seeing that culture, it's so exciting. Working with a company that was able to grow fast, working with these small companies. Again, we played an extremely small role, but working with these small companies, seeing this ecosystem in Montreal develop, seeing this excitement in Montreal, it was just natural to be drawn to that, right? In my opinion, right? And sometimes we get in EY and our other consulting firm would kind of give us a little bit of crap about it, right? Because they say, why are you working with this small tech company if they're 5 people? But then 5 years down the line, when we started having these major wins, because we had worked with these small tech companies that raised a couple of rounds that started growing, they understood the value, right? So it was so exciting just to see the growth instead of working with a traditional company, right? So it was fun.
Yeah. It's very interesting because it was from maybe a sales or business development perspective, probably got a little bit of heat saying, why are you working with these early stage companies and why aren't you going out and talking to the big megacorps of this world? But you were kind of on the front lines of, the tech resurgence here in the city. So you're able to see and say and invest your time and saying, hey, these companies are actually going to grow, so we should participate in that growth.
And yeah, that's it. It was extremely fun. And I joke about it, but EY was extremely great with us, right? They gave us the funds, they gave us the ability, the flexibility to do that stuff. So because of that, we were able to be involved in a lot in Montreal New Tech. We sponsored a lot of Montreal New Techs, a lot of Founder Fuels and everything. So it was so exciting to be involved in that and just seeing that grow. And that again, I'm not an entrepreneur, per se, but I just working with that industry is so fun and playing a small role to see. And honestly, it's building Montreal. That ecosystem, I think, helped build Montreal to what it is today. And it naturally led, and I didn't know I was coming to Montreal International at the time, but it naturally led to this progression where you start help building Montreal one way through internally. And I think I helped build Montreal. And again, it's an extremely small role, but externally now, bringing other companies in, bringing a little bit international into Montreal.
So it's an interesting progression, yeah. So help build the guts of the system. Even like you said, small role, but important one, right? And then more from an external perspective. So what was the path from leaving EY to Montreal International?
For me, it was just time for a change. I knew the team at Montreal International. I knew a couple of coffees with a number of people there, and it just looked like an interesting job, right? It's just, and I've already said it, but I am a Montrealer through and through. I love Montreal. I've grown up here my whole life, and being able to play a role to help promote and sell Montreal is incredible. Like the job is, and I when I talk to people, it's a mix of 3 things, right? We're cheerleaders for Montreal, so sometimes we go to conferences, we just try and make Montreal look good. We are business development for Montreal. There's a lot of business development, and that's maybe one thing I underestimated when I came in. And not that I don't like it, I absolutely love it, but it's cold calls, cold emails, knocking on doors, it's forcing your way into companies. And then the other part is consulting, right? There's a big part of consulting. So once the companies get here, You need to be, and like there's a term, jack of all trades, master of none a little bit. You need to understand tax credits. You need to understand immigration. You need to understand real estate. You need to understand everything so you could at least guide them in the right way, right? So it's extremely fun because of that, because of the variety, because of the types of companies you work with, right? And Montreal is naturally prone to getting tech companies, right? And especially with the AI stuff going on these days. But we work across the board. I worked with one company that was making intelligent glass for windows for buildings. We worked with another company making synthetic diamonds. It's just seeing these incredible business being built. And because of my territory in Silicon Valley a lot, that are just being built and being able to work with them. And then they're the big ones as well. And we've seen all the names come to Montreal recently. And because of the nature of my job, like I've got to meet these companies. I've got to go to Facebook. I got in, and sometimes I feel like I think there's a term in English, humble brag, but I got to go to Apple at the new spaceship campus to have lunch to present Montreal. Like stuff like that is something I would have never thought I was doing, right?
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know anyone that's been to that campus. Like, what's the quick summary of it?
It's incredible. Like, and again, as a tech nerd, as a person that lives in this industry, just seeing it, like just walking up to the campus is huge. There is these massive glass windows. We've all seen the pictures, right? There's light throughout the whole place, but it's also the real stereotypical Apple, which is almost like a medical room, right? Everything is white. Everything is almost disinfected. It's very polished. And it was fun. And that's it. And when I finished my meeting, hopefully nobody at Apple listens to this podcast. When I finished my meeting, she was like, "Oh, you could find your way out." I'm like, yeah, no problem. I wandered around for an hour after that, right? And I'm sure, and I joke with my wife that they would probably still had 100 different cameras trained on me. So I probably wasn't alone, but they had bikes around the campus. I just wandered around for a while. So it was really interesting.
That's a funny story. How would you describe the company's mission, the organization's mission?
So Montreal International, our role, and like there's our official description, and then like the way I like to describe it is that our role is to bring outside into Montreal, right? We have a number of different mandates. The major mandate, what we're mostly known for, is for bringing companies in, right? Where we work with the Facebook, Googles, Microsofts, Amazons of the world, and get them to come to Montreal, set up shop here. Open up offices, create jobs, create wealth, right? And we're not a government organization. We're a not-for-profit. We're funded mostly by the government. So it's a very fine distinction, but there is a distinction there. So we're able to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more aggressive on that front, working with companies compared to other organizations that are governmental that have a very important role also in the process, right?
Yeah. So considering that you guys are a non-profit government, like quasi-governmental organization, what do you benchmark on? Like, what does performance look like? How do you measure success?
So you can see our numbers from last year. We don't hide our numbers. Our numbers are based on the value we create in Montreal, and because of the industry, because of what we do for a living, it's not a hard metric, right? Most people, and when I present these metrics, are like, well, that's a little bit fuzzy. What our metrics are, we don't hide them. It's you base our job creation, more or less a CapEx and OpEx forecasted for the next 3 years on a project, right? So that's it. So you have a project come in. Let's say any one of these AI labs that have opened up recently. You say, okay, you're going to be 20 this year, 40 next year, 60 the year after. They tell us their projections. We take the salaries, we multiply it, we take the CapEx costs, and that's what we base our number, our value of our investment, right? It's a little bit fuzzy because it's hard to tell, especially in these tech companies 3 years in a row or 3 years in a line, where they're going to end up. But we've done our studies, and I can't quote you the exact percentage. It's on our website, but we're around between 80 and 90% exact in what we're getting right these days. So that's it. So we do it pretty well because some companies blow up, some companies doesn't work out for them, right? So it evens out in the long run.
Yeah. So it's really focused on economic development, right? Yeah. You're going to Facebook, you're negotiating, hey, it'd be great if you guys open an AI lab or same thing for Samsung. Yeah. And then when they come here, it creates a bunch of high paying jobs, which benefits the economy and in turn benefits, the government with taxes. Right?
Yeah. And I've had a lot of discussions with local entrepreneurs about the value of bringing external companies in and stuff like that, and about the competition. But I truly believe that. And again, I want to build Montreal. I want to see the great Montreal companies, and we could probably rattle off 100 of them right away, right? But I want to see them all succeed and be bigger than any company I bring in. But I truly believe that having these foreign companies in Montreal is extremely important part of the puzzle, right? And these days I sell AI a lot, right? And I've listened to some of your podcasts on AI, and AI can be a term that means nothing or means a lot these days, but it's what Montreal has made its mark lately on in the past couple years. And if you want to be the capital of artificial intelligence, you can't be the capital of artificial intelligence of the world without having the Facebook, Googles of the world here. You need to have the best funded startups of the world here. You need to have the best startups of the world. You need to have the best research of the world. So I think it's an important part of the puzzle. And what we've seen, we're working with a company now. It's not a big name. It's not a name people would generally know, but they're launching a lab. We'll probably announce it in the next couple of weeks. They've already hired 8 people for the lab. Every one of those people are from outside Montreal. They got, and I forget exactly, 2 from London, 1 from Czech Republic, 1 from Sweden. The guy running the lab from Edmonton. So just seeing that, bringing that talent into Montreal. All these people aren't going to stay at this lab forever, but they have the opportunity to stay in Montreal forever and build the Montreal ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a very isolationist point of view. People say, "Oh, don't bring in, a foreign company here." It's a little bit hypocritical myself. I've personally benefited from, working at a very large foreign company, but I really do believe what you're saying is that it does help, right? Because it creates jobs. People leave, then go work locally or do their own thing.
Yeah.
So I very much believe in that. And it's like you said, if you want to be the capital of anything, well, you need to have the most important companies of that field present, right?
Yeah.
Which I think we're starting to do. What do you think is lacking for us to kind of step up, right? I know we want to be the capital of AI, but it's in realistically speaking, we still have a lot to catch up versus, let's say, San Francisco, or in China, for instance.
Yeah.
So just curious to see, okay, what's really missing for us to kind of go from, let's say, AAA baseball to the major leagues.
Yeah. In AI specifically, I think we're doing really well, right? And I think part of it depends how you measure your metrics, right? It depends what you consider the capital of the world for AI, right? And I think and again, I'm the salesman for Montreal, so take it with a grain of salt, but I really truly believe if you measure the research, the quality, and the type of talent coming through Montreal, and I assume most people who listen to your podcast are have a tech background, so they probably know the story with Professor Bengio, but we do have a ton of talent here. I think what's missing, right, to really make it indisputable, I think it's probably missing across the board, and it's gotten a lot better in the past decade, right, is I think the funding and maybe the risk of funding. That's what and there's the 2 sides of the story. The entrepreneurs tell me that there's not enough funding here for early stage companies. They say, go get more VCs, try and get more VCs here. But then their local VCs, who we collaborate with quite a bit, tell us there's not enough good projects sometimes, right? So it's 2 sides of the same coin sometimes. And then I think across the board, and what's going to make Montreal, or what continues to build Montreal, is talent, right? You build, I really think we build the city on talent, and across a number of industries, gaming, VFX, AI. There is a talent crunch around the world. We have great talent. We have great schools in Montreal. We're the best student city in North America. We have some incredible schools here that train talent. And I think maybe one of the things, to come back to an earlier point, one of the things that might be missing is the more senior level talent, right? I've had conversations with different people in the ecosystem about how to take the ecosystem really to the next level. And we're a young ecosystem, right? We talked about it already. Only about 10 years old, maybe as a tech startup ecosystem, or in this new form that it is now. And what we need is that next level of talent, those people that exit, the people that got trained at the Googles and the Yahoos of the world, the people that got that next level of training that could come in and really take the businesses here up to the next level, right? And I think that's part of the role that these foreign companies bring to the table when they come set up here. When Facebook comes here and hires a number of people and trains them and brings them down to the valley and trains them down there, and then they come back to Montreal, it makes a huge difference, right? And one of the people I respect most in Montreal is Sylvain Callon, right? And he went through that progression, right? He had a startup, went to Twitter, came back to Montreal, and now he is Montreal, right? It's or Montreal Tech, right? So it's
What are you focused on right now? Where are you spending your time?
Well, there's a couple, like I mentioned earlier, there's a couple new mandates. So my traditional mandates go to Silicon Valley, meet with companies, bring it back here. AI is what we sell these days nonstop. That's what opens the door for me. I've already mentioned, we are able to meet with almost anybody these days because of what's going on in Montreal. Montreal's on the map. I don't get the question anymore that, well, you're from Canada, I got a cousin in Vancouver, is it close to Montreal, right? Now the people know where Montreal is, we're on the map, it opens the doors, right? So that is my calling card. We were in Stockholm about, I don't know when this is going to air, but in mid-July at a big conference. The excitement that people had there for having a booth that was just Montreal, it's within the industry, Montreal is extremely well respected. We had people coming to us from all over the world saying, oh, this is so cool what you guys are doing in Montreal. Montreal is really becoming the center. You guys are really building it properly. So that's what we're working on a lot. Other industries in Montreal, and because, again, in my role, it's a little bit broader, VFX, the visual effects industry in Montreal is extremely, extremely exciting in Montreal. There's so much going on in that industry. We had the quick anecdote with that is that about 5-6 years ago, there was an influx of companies from Europe, right? Framestore, Cinesite, Technicolor with all their brands, Micros Images. They came to Montreal because of the tax credits was going on. And the tax credits are generally the same across Canada, right? So what happened was all the West Coast companies went up to Vancouver. Vancouver is now extremely saturated, extremely expensive, and extremely difficult to hire in. So all these West Coast companies, and you could pretty much name any of the big names, are looking at Montreal these days in VFX. So the VFX industry, I think, is going to be the next industry that's really going to have a really, really big effect on Montreal, make a big, big difference.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and we're starting to see it, right? I don't know if it's completely related to the gaming industry as well. There's a bit of a relationship there. Yeah. But you see, Felix and Paul, for instance, right, that are growing, like, I think, massively right now in the VR space, but with visual effects, right? Yeah. So it is, I think, underappreciated or understood how much, just how many people work in that space here in Montreal.
Oh yeah, the gaming industry, right? And for the government that put in the tax credits, what was it, like 20 years ago now, the gaming industry, it changed Montreal. They did such an excellent job. That built the video game industry here, which built the tech talent here, which probably built a lot of the early stage tech talent here, which built a lot of startups, which built AI has a real close connection to gaming. VFX, like I say, it overlaps. It's like 99% of it overlaps. So having that same talent, that pool of talent in Montreal from gaming is so critical to building Montreal. And again, I'm biased because I worked there a long time, but there's always discussion about the tech credits and the tax credits and what they're good for, what they affect, and why we should be using them for foreign companies. I think it makes a huge difference, right? I think bringing those companies in, it builds Montreal, and it ultimately builds Quebec and builds all of
There's
us.
a bit of a symbiotic relationship, but it's not, I think, on purpose, right? Just like if you look at GPUs from gaming, it's kind of the reason this whole artificial intelligence / machine learning has come about, right? Yeah. So obviously someone that programs games is not an AI developer, but the underlying chips that are being used come from gaming, right? Yeah. This is why kind of like NVIDIA is like one of the most valuable companies today.
Oh yeah, NVIDIA, we talk all the time. They have so much interest in Montreal, so it's fun seeing these types of companies having interest in Montreal.
What are you most excited about?
Generally Montreal, I guess maybe that's a large.
It's gonna come through
a big answer and a large answer, but again, like I've grown up in Montreal, I've lived here my whole life. Where Montreal's at these days, and again, I sell it for the world. It's in an incredible place, right? We've always been the little brother a little bit to Toronto, to the States and stuff, but I really don't think that. I think in 5 years, I'm so interested to see where Montreal is going to be in 5 years, right? With the companies we have here, with the excitement we have here, with the momentum Montreal has here, we have the argument for a number of industries to be top 5 or top 3 or top 2 or top or best in the world for a number of industries. We see studies nonstop, and again, I'm a little bit siloed, so I drink the Kool-Aid of selling Montreal, but we see studies nonstop. There was a study that came out yesterday. Montreal is the healthiest city in North America. We're the student capital of the world. There's so much momentum that we haven't had for decades in Montreal that it just makes it exciting, right? And like this AI stuff is incredible. And again, I'm not an AI researcher. I'm not a tech person at all. I'm on the outside and just making a small role. But it's to see the strength we have there, to see the stars we have in AI. And I've had the extreme fortune to be at conferences with Professor Bengio and work with him on a couple small events. He is a rock star. We were at a conference in Toronto with him again on this past weekend at the CFAR Summer School, the Canadian Institute for Advanced Research. He had people following him to get a selfie with him, right? He's like Tom Cruise in this industry, right? And to have him in Montreal within this industry, it is incredible. To have the schools, the Mila, the UDM, the McGill's, RTS has incredible programs. It's kind of everything is coming together at the right time for Montreal, which is fun. And as the salesperson, I couldn't ask for better, right?
Is there anything that worries you, or like is something you think a challenge that needs to be overcome? I know there's like things are going well, but it's a kind of a statement, it's sunny out, so there's sunny, right? So what do you see as any roadblocks or obstacles?
Well, there's always challenges, right? There's a lot of challenges in Montreal, in Canada in general, right? There's stuff that we can affect. There's the political environment, right? And the administration in the United States, right? That could have a significant effect on Montreal if things fall the wrong way, let's say, right? And sometimes, and right now, my joke when I talk to people is that Justin Trudeau's the best salesman for Canada and Donald Trump's the second best salesman for Canada, right? Because people come to Montreal. We get so much interest, especially from the West Coast, which is more democratic, right? They're looking to get out of the States now. But like there could be barriers set up there. Talent. If we can't keep up to the talent demand, right? And I don't think anywhere in the world can keep up to the talent demand in a lot of industries, but if we can't keep up to the talent demand, and if we fall short there and in the wrong way, again, that could have a negative effect, right? In these big industries is a big one. And then there's the traditional factors in Montreal, the cold. We always get the cold, right? Getting companies here, but they've kind of got past that now. They understand snow's not so bad. And everything.
If you learn to ski.
Yeah. I still wouldn't come here to ski. I'd go out west, right?
Yeah. I was going to say Whistler. Yeah, we can't compare ourselves to Whistler, but it's much better than Toronto.
Yeah, exactly.
Because 45 minutes you have like multiple mountains versus Toronto. You have a little hill.
Exactly.
That's like 8 hours away. Yeah. I'm exaggerating. What do you think is underappreciated, right? So I think you mentioned some of the biggie trends that's kind of getting a lot of attention. What do you think's misunderstood or underappreciated in the market?
I think as Montrealers, right, and I have a little bit of a different perspective sometimes when I go outside and talk to people looking in. Again, there's always the grass is greener on the other side, right? I think a lot of people see Silicon Valley and want to live there, want to go there, want to be part of that culture. Stay in Montreal, right? We have the quality of life in Montreal, the fact that you could get downtown in 50 minutes from a suburb is... People in San Francisco would kill for that, right? It's the quality of life here, the quality of the companies that we have here now. Maybe 5 years ago it would have been as apparent, but the quality of the companies we have here now, the quality of the research, the quality of the people in Montreal, we have, again, some of the best place to work and live, I think, in the world, right? Like you could balance your quality of life here, which I think for most people is extremely important. Nobody wants to work 20 hours, or very few people want to work 20 hours a day, but you still want to make a difference, and you can make a huge difference. You can build great companies. You can work at great companies in Montreal while still being able to live, right? And not commute 3 hours back and forth to get to Palo Alto and back and forth from San Francisco, wherever you want, right? I talk to people in the Valley, and it's not a lifestyle that most people would be happy with, I think.
Yeah. Having done it for a little bit of my life, the 1 hour, hour and a half commute in traffic each way to SF. It's tough. It's tough versus time that you could be spent with your family or at the jobs or being more productive. And if we can only fix the potholes in construction, I think we'd be set right now. So I really like your kind of optimistic point of view on everything Montreal, and I think it's kind of part of your jobs, which is I'm really happy. It's like we have someone really representing the city. Are there any particular companies or technologies that you're looking forward to and saying, hey, maybe these are like embryonic today, but in 5 years they're just like going to blow up? I think everyone kind of knows, the light speeds or the hoppers that are kind of gaining a lot of momentum today. What do you think are the diamonds in the rough that they're going to be household names in a few years?
Well, like there's two sides of the coin, right? I think there's the companies that I'm extremely excited to see where they go, right? And the best one in Montreal is Element AI, right? They are putting us on the map. They're making a huge difference. I'm so excited. And there have been rumors about the raise or next raise and everything. I'm so excited to see what happens. I have a lot of good friends that work there. I've had the opportunity to talk to JF, the CEO, a little bit. I know his vision a bit, but it's just to see where they're going to go. That's exciting in the unknown way almost, because they have it's unknown, right? They have such an opportunity to be able to do something massive, right? So they're great. There's other great AI companies in Montreal that are more on the consulting side, strategy. There's companies that are growing like crazy. And then there's the companies that come through the startups, right? And again, I have a little bit of a affinity towards that. The companies in Tandem Launch. Tandem Launch is incredible if you're familiar with them in Montreal. You've talked to some of the graduates in the past. One of the companies I'm most interested in is SportLogic. What they're doing, I think that is such an interesting application of computer vision and AI to be able to do that, to be able to track athletes in real time. Another company that I've seen, Algalux, they seem to win in computer vision again. They win awards nonstop. It's these, and I'm only naming a few because they just come to mind right away. But these companies that aren't AI companies, but are using AI, right? And again, you have to put AI in your pitch deck these days, or else you're not really a startup, but that are really using it for really concrete results that are really, really interesting, that you could see every day. And as a consumer, that you'll be able to use in 5 years. I think those are the ones that excite me. And I truly believe that in 5 years, there's going to be a company that comes out of Montreal that's going to change the world, right? It's fun.
That's great, Mark. Like I said, I'm pretty happy that you're out and about representing and wearing the tag proudly. Maybe the last question for you is, where can people find out more about yourself or what you're doing at Montreal International?
So go to MontrealInternational.com. There's a lot of really, really good information on there. We put a lot of business cases, a lot of studies up there, a lot of announcements. Me personally, find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the social network I use the most, just with the nature of my job. I post a lot on there. Or track my email down. It's really not hard to find. It's mark.mclean@mtlintl.com. And I'm happy to talk to anyone. I'm happy to grab a coffee with anybody. It'd be my pleasure.
Super cool. Thanks for your time, Mark.
Thank you for listening to the Point of No Return podcast. Never miss an episode by clicking on the subscribe button on iTunes or Google Play.